It was a hot afternoon in Hong Kong, 1954. The kind of afternoon where the air sits heavy and still, and the narrow back alleys of Kowloon smell like street food, motor oil, and trouble. A group of teenage boys had gathered in one of those alleys. They were laughing, shoving each other, and making a lot of noise. But this was not the laughter of boys having fun. This was the laughter of boys watching someone get humiliated. In the center of that crowd stood two people. One was Danny Pham, 17 years old, broad shoulders, heavy fists, and a reputation as the most feared bully in the entire neighborhood. Danny had been terrorizing younger kids in this area for years. Even grown men were careful around him. He had connections to the local triads, Hong Kong's powerful street gangs, and he used that reputation like a weapon, waving it in front of anyone who dared to stand up to him. The other person was Bruce Lee, 14 years old, lean and quiet, a simple school bag hanging from one shoulder. To anyone looking at him that afternoon, he looked like the smallest, most harmless boy in the alley. Danny had been making Bruce's life miserable for 2 full years. Insults every time he saw him, shoves in the school corridor. Once, a full beating that left Bruce limping home, with a swollen eye and bruised ribs. Every time, Bruce had said nothing and walked away. Every time, Danny had laughed louder and felt more untouchable. But today was going to be different. Today, something had changed in Bruce Lee's eyes. "Get on your knees," Danny shouted, his voice carrying across the whole alley. He was putting on a show for his audience. "Bow down to me right now, half-breed. Let everyone see who you really are." The crowd laughed. Someone shoved Bruce hard from behind. He stumbled forward, caught his balance, and slowly straightened up. He looked at Danny, not with fear, not with anger, with something far more dangerous, total, absolute calm. What happened in the next 90 seconds left every single person in that alley speechless. Danny Pham, the 17-year-old bully who had never lost a fight in his life, ended up on the ground, his hands shaking so badly he could barely push himself up. He scrambled to his feet, his face white as paper, and he ran. His entire gang ran with him. Not one of them looked back. The alley went completely silent. Nobody could understand what they had just seen. How did this small, quiet 14-year-old boy just destroy the most feared bully in the neighborhood? How did he make a bigger, older, stronger opponent shake with fear and sprint away like a terrified child? To answer that, you need to go back 2 years, to the moment Bruce Lee decided that he was never going to be helpless again. Bruce Lee was born on November 27, 1940, in San Francisco, California. His father, Lee Hoi Chen, was a famous Cantonese opera singer and actor who was performing on an American tour at the time of Bruce's birth. 3 months later, the family returned to Hong Kong, and that is where Bruce grew up. From the very beginning, Bruce was not an easy child. He was explosive with energy, constantly restless, always looking for something to test himself against. As a young boy, he got into fights regularly, not because he was cruel, but because he had an enormous amount of fire inside him and no proper place to put it. Growing up mixed race in Hong Kong made things harder. His mother was half German and half Chinese, which meant Bruce did not look fully Chinese to many people around him. In the tough street culture of 1950s Kowloon, that made him an easy target. Boys like Danny Pham used Bruce's heritage as a weapon, calling him a half-breed, telling him he did not belong anywhere, using words designed to make him feel like an outsider in his own city. By the time Bruce was 13, his parents were seriously worried. He had been in too many fights. The police had come to the house. The local gang leaders knew his name. His father could see that without some kind of direction, Bruce's fire was going to burn him alive. So his father made one decision that changed the entire course of Bruce Lee's life. He took Bruce to meet Ip Man. Ip Man was a small, calm, soft-spoken man in his late 50s, one of the most respected Wing Chun Kung Fu masters in all of Hong Kong. He did not look like a fighter. He moved quietly, spoke gently, and had an air of complete stillness about him that was almost unsettling. When Bruce first saw him, he was not impressed. He had been expecting someone powerful and dramatic. Instead, he found a quiet old man who offered him tea. "Before I teach you how to fight," Ip Man said that first day, looking at Bruce with steady eyes, "you must answer one question. Why do you want to learn?" Bruce answered honestly, "Because people keep hurting me, and I want to be able to stop them." Ip Man nodded slowly. "Good. That is an honest answer. Come back tomorrow morning, 6 o'clock. Bruce came back, and he kept coming back every single day for the next year and a half. What he discovered under Ip Man's teaching was completely different from anything he had experienced in his street fights. Wing Chun was not about size or raw strength. It was about efficiency, speed, and intelligence. It was about using the shortest possible path to deliver the maximum possible force. It was about staying completely relaxed until the exact moment of impact, then releasing everything in one explosive, precise strike. Bruce Lee was a natural. What took other students weeks to learn, Bruce absorbed in days. His speed was already exceptional, but Ip Man showed him how to turn that natural speed into something truly devastating. His footwork improved until he could move in and out of striking range faster than most people could blink. His combinations became tight, sharp, and vicious. Not the wild swinging of a street brawler, but the clean, controlled violence of someone who had practiced every movement 10,000 times. He trained every single day without exception. Early mornings, he ran through the hills around Kowloon to build his stamina. After school, he went straight to the training hall. Late at night, alone in his room, he practiced movements in the dark until they became automatic, burned into his muscles so deeply that he did not need to think about them anymore. And all through this time, Danny Fong kept pushing him around, kept insulting him, kept making his life small and painful. But now, every time Danny humiliated Bruce, Bruce took that pain straight to training. Every insult became another hour of practice. Every public shove became another reason to perfect one more technique. Bruce Lee was doing something that most people never managed to do. He was turning his suffering into fuel. 2 years of being bullied leaves marks that go much deeper than bruises. There were mornings when Bruce woke up and felt the weight of it before he even got out of bed. That low, dull dread of knowing that today might be another day of humiliation. Another day of Danny's voice cutting through a crowd, making everyone laugh at his expense. Another reminder that in the eyes of the neighborhood, he was still the small mixed-race kid who did not quite belong anywhere. His close friend and fellow student Henry Chan remembered those times clearly. He later said, "Bruce never complained. Never once did I hear him say that Danny was getting to him. But I could see it. After every bad encounter with Danny or his gang, Bruce would show up at the training hall that same evening and train harder than I have ever seen anyone train. It was like he was at war with himself, trying to build something strong enough to protect him from ever feeling that way again." That is exactly what Bruce was doing. He had taken Ip Man's teaching to heart in a way that went beyond technique. Ip Man had told him early on, the body can be trained to do anything if the mind is disciplined enough. But the mind must be trained first. Learn to control your anger. Learn to control your fear. A fighter who is controlled by his emotions is already defeated before the fight begins. So Bruce practiced that too. During sparring sessions, Ip Man would have training partners deliberately taunt him and mock him, recreating the kind of pressure Bruce faced in the streets with Danny. They would insult him, push him, try to make him angry and sloppy. Bruce learned to feel the anger rise, acknowledge it, and then set it aside like putting down a heavy bag. He learned to stay ice-cold and laser-focused, no matter what was being said to him. By the time 14 months of training had passed, Bruce Lee was a fundamentally different person. Or more accurately, he had become a more complete version of who he had always been. The fire was still there, but now it had a shape. Now it had direction and control. Ip Man noticed this shift in his student and said something to him one afternoon that Bruce never forgot. "You are ready," the master said simply. "Not ready to fight Danny Fong. Ready to never need to fear him again. Those are two very different things. Do you understand the difference?" Bruce thought about it. Then he nodded. "I think so," he said. "One is about defeating him. The other is about not being defeated by him." Ip Man smiled. "Now you understand Wing Chun." The confrontation in the alley did not happen by accident. Danny had been pushing harder and harder in recent weeks, as if he sensed something changing in Bruce and wanted to crush it before it fully formed. He had started following Bruce home from school, making sure his gang was always nearby. He had been escalating the humiliations, trying to provoke a reaction. On the day it finally happened, Danny blocked Bruce's path in the alley, with his full gang surrounding him on all sides. There was nowhere to go. No walking away this time. Danny had made sure of that. "Bow down," Danny said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Get on your knees right now, or I swear I will put you in the hospital." The crowd held its breath. Everyone expected Bruce to back down. That was what always happened. Bruce set down his school bag on the ground very carefully. He straightened up. He looked at Danny with those dark, focused eyes, and he took his Wing Chun stance. Danny's eyes narrowed. Something about the way Bruce was standing made the hair on the back of his neck stand up, but he pushed the feeling away. He was 17. He was bigger. He had never lost. He threw the first punch. Danny's first punch was a hard, fast, looping right hand aimed straight at Bruce's face. It was the same punch that had knocked out older boys before. Danny had thrown this punch 100 times. It had never missed. It missed completely. Bruce slipped inside the swing with a speed that made the watching crowd gasp out loud. He did not step backward. He stepped forward into the punch, his head moving just enough to let Danny's fist sail past his ear. In the same motion, both of Bruce's hands came up into the Wing Chun guard, elbows in tight, arms relaxed, eyes locked on Danny's chest. Danny stood there for a half second with his fist in empty air, completely confused. Nobody had ever moved like that before. He threw a second punch, faster this time, with more desperation. Again, Bruce was simply not there. He shifted his weight smoothly, rotated his hips, and Danny's knuckles skimmed past his shoulder like he was swatting at smoke. Then Bruce Lee hit back. The first strike was a short, explosive punch to Danny's ribs, delivered from just inches away, using the full chain reaction of legs, hips, and body that Ip Man had drilled into him thousands of times. There was a sharp crack on impact that everyone in the alley heard clearly. Danny's face went from confusion to shock in an instant. He had never been hit like that by anyone his own age. That small fist had driven the air from his lungs like a hammer blow. He doubled slightly, his arms dropping for just a fraction of a second. That fraction of a second was all Bruce needed. The second strike came before Danny could recover a precise, controlled hit to the solar plexus that buckled his knees and made his legs go temporarily weak. The third was to his shoulder, spinning him sideways and off balance. Then came a combination, fast, tight, perfectly placed, one strike flowing into the next without any gap between them. The crowd was completely silent. Nobody was laughing anymore. Danny tried to grab Bruce, tried to use his size advantage to wrestle him to the ground. But Bruce had practiced against grabs hundreds of times. He slipped out of Danny's grip as if his arms were made of water, redirected Danny's forward momentum, and used it to send the bigger boy stumbling hard into the alley wall. Danny hit the wall with a heavy thud, turned around, and charged forward with everything he had, a wild, desperate rush fueled by rage and humiliation. Bruce stepped to the side at the last possible moment, his footwork precise and unhurried. And as Danny's charge carried him past, Bruce delivered one final, devastating strike to the back of his shoulder that sent Danny crashing to the ground. The alley went dead silent. Danny Fong lay on the ground of that alley, breathing hard, staring up at the sky. He tried to push himself up, and his arms were shaking so badly that he nearly collapsed again. His face had gone completely white. His gang, the same boys who had helped him torment Bruce for 2 years, stood frozen, not one of them moving to help him, because they had seen something in Bruce Lee's eyes during those 90 seconds that they did not have a word for. It was not rage. It was not cruelty. It was something much more frightening than either of those things. It was the complete, unshakable confidence of someone who has prepared so thoroughly, for so long, that they have zero doubt about the outcome. Danny finally got to his feet. His legs were still shaking visibly. He looked at Bruce, really looked at him, perhaps for the first time, and what he saw made him take one step back, then another. Bruce said nothing. He simply held his ground and waited. Danny turned and walked quickly away. Then faster. Then he was running, and his entire gang was running with him, their footsteps echoing and fading down the alley until the sound disappeared completely. Bruce Lee picked up his school bag from the ground, straightened it on his shoulder, and walked home. He never had a problem with Danny Fong again. In fact, for the rest of the time they lived in the same neighborhood, Danny went out of his way to avoid even being on the same street as Bruce Lee. That afternoon in a Hong Kong alley was the beginning of a legend that would eventually shake the entire world. Bruce Lee went on to become one of the most famous and most respected human beings of the 20th century. Not just as a martial artist, though his skill in that area was genuinely extraordinary, but as a philosopher, a teacher, and a symbol of what becomes possible when a person refuses to accept the limits that others try to place on them. He moved to America as a young man and faced an industry that told him his face could never be the face of a hero. Hollywood executives told him directly that American audiences would never accept a Chinese man in a leading role. He was passed over for parts. He was looked down on. He was told, in both polite and not so polite ways, that he did not belong at the top. He responded exactly the way he had responded to Danny Fong in that alley. Not with anger, not with bitterness, but with preparation, precision, and absolute refusal to bow down. By the time he was 32 years old, Bruce Lee had changed the world. His films broke box office records across Asia and then in the West. He became the first Asian man to headline a major Hollywood production. He revolutionized martial arts so completely that virtually every action film made after him carries his influence. He created his own martial arts philosophy, Jeet Kune Do, that combined techniques from dozens of fighting styles into something entirely new and entirely his own. He once said, "Do not pray for an easy life. Pray for the strength to endure a difficult one." He also said, "Be like water. Water does not fight the shape of the container. It simply fills it. Be formless, be shapeless, like water." And perhaps most powerfully, he said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." That last quote tells you everything about what happened in that Hong Kong alley. Danny Fong had thrown punches 100 times. He relied on size, reputation, and the fear of others to win his fights. Bruce Lee had practiced the same techniques 10,000 times, in a training hall, under a great master, day after day after day. When those two approaches met face to face, there was only going to be one result. The real lesson of Bruce Lee's story is not about fighting. It is about what happens when a person decides that their pain is not going to define them, that the humiliation and suffering they face is not the end of their story, but the beginning of who they are truly going to become. Think about your own life. Have you ever been made to feel small by someone who had power over you? Have you ever been dismissed, insulted, or told that you were not good enough? Have you ever stood in your own version of that alley, with someone demanding that you bow down? If you have, and most of us have, at some point in our lives, then Bruce Lee's story is not just history. It is a message sent directly to you across the decades. Keep training, keep preparing, keep showing up every single day, and building something that cannot be taken from you. Because the moment will come when your preparation meets your opportunity. And on that day, everything changes. Danny Fong ran away shaking not because Bruce Lee was bigger or louder or more aggressive. He ran because he came face to face with someone who had done the work, someone who had turned every bad day into preparation, every insult into motivation, and every moment of pain into one more brick in the foundation of something unbreakable. That is the Bruce Lee that matters most. Not the movie star, not the icon on a poster, but the 14-year-old boy in that alley who picked up a school bag, looked a bully in the eye, and said without a single word, "I am not afraid of you anymore," and proved it. We bring you stories every week about real people who refuse to give up. Stories of courage, justice, and the human spirit at its most powerful. Every single video is made for people who believe that character matters more than circumstances. And in the comments below, tell us, have you ever faced a bully and found the courage to stand your ground? Your story matters. Share it. We read every single comment.